Hey everybody, what's up? Yeah, this is an audio version or continuation of the video response I did in Nostalgia Critics review of Turbo Power Rangers movie, and I want to talk a little bit about the fact of the series basically that came out of it. Now, again, as I said there, I can understand. Well, basically, I stand by what I said in that video. I can understand how fans feel about Turbo and the character of Justin and all that. Um, but to me, it's like Turbo wasn't really bad or anything. I know that sounds like I'm kissing up or anything, but it really wasn't that bad at times. But if you're someone like me that would like to watch the show or try to keep up with the show, but I don't know, you're out doing other things like say being in your first year of football or being in your last year of football, being in your your second to last year of high school football, being in track and stuff like that, trying to go out for basketball but you can't, and due to the fact that you made a promise that you'd only be a two-sport individual. Um, when you try to do stuff like that, you kind of lose track of watching the episodes. And I remember when I first saw Turbo on VHS, um, I enjoyed it. I really did. I think Turbo came out. I can't remember when Turbo came out. I gotta look it up on my iPod here. But I remember when Turbo came out, I wanted to see it in the theaters. But my dad, the fact is, we didn't have no theaters around us. The closest we actually had was Topeka in the Westridge Mall, Westridge 8 theaters. But hey, man, I remember when it came out, I wanted to see it because it was the second movie in 2 years. Yeah, it came out in March of 1997. So, like I said, I wanted to see it, and I remember it came out to VHS. I think around August or September of that year. To kind of, I think it did. Let me check again. I don't see anything. It should say when it came out. Came out to VHS. Um, I know it came out later on that year, basically in time for the series to be shown, for the series premiere, so it can connect with it, so that people like myself that didn't see it in theaters could watch it on VHS and then catch it up with it on television. But anyway, I remember when it came out, I wanted to see it, and like I said, when the series came out later that year officially, of course, like I said, being somebody that was doing sports in high school and stuff like that, I could not, catch up that much with the series because it was doing the weekday deal, it was doing the weekend deal as well. But I could not catch up with the series as much as I would like to. So I remember one time, and this was not the first time this happened, but I remember one time I tuned in to watch Power Rangers, to watch Turbo, and the introduction gave me the characters of TJ, Cassie, Ashley, and Carlos. Justin I knew, but the other ones I was like, who the heck are these guys? And it wasn't until later on when the episodes were being rerun that I saw the episode where it kind of explained what was happening. So yeah, I could kind of understand. And the same thing with with the character of Demetria in Alpha 6. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know what was going on, quite honestly. So, and I could understand for any Power Ranger fan at that time that probably didn't see the first two parts, the two-part season premiere, or continuation from the movie. I can understand how they would feel walking in to the third episode of Turbo, and you're seeing Demetria, and you're thinking, who the heck is this? Where's Zordon? So I can understand how people feel, and I understand exactly where Louis Lumberg, Linkara comes from on that as well. It's like, for example, let's say you're on a vacation, you're on your last 2 days of vacation, before you go back to school or you go back to work, and you watch and you miss out on the episodes, and yet when you finally come back and you see the third episode, you're thinking, what's going on? Who's this? Where's that? What's going on? And it really confuses people. It really confuses people because suddenly you're having all these changes and all that. And the only thing I can think of, honestly, was the fact that, as Linkara put it in his history deal, you had Jason David Frank and Catherine Sutherland, both who played Tommy and Kat, wanting to leave and pursue other interests. And I'm not sure about the people that I can't think of her name. What was her name? I don't know about Johnny Young or Nakia Bush. Naka Bush. Bush. I mean, I don't know exactly whether they were going to stay on or not. I think they were. And then all of a sudden, they get word that, hey, since, Jason and Catherine are leaving, guess what? You guys are going to go too. We're going to bring in this entire new cast, and whoop-de-doo, well, back to teenagers. So that's the only thing I could think of. They basically saw an opportunity to say, hey, let's get this back to what made it what it was, what made Power Rangers what it was. Let's get the heroes back to being teenagers instead of teenagers becoming adults. Which a lot of people, like Linkara, have said they missed out on. Missed out on a lot of opportunities with. Now, let's face facts. The new team really, the second half with the new team, it took a few episodes, but they really started to grow on you as a fan. I mean, you basically started to see exactly the similarities they had to the previous teams. Now, that's great and all. That's terrific and all. And like I said, you kind of saw those similarities. And that's why they started to grow on you and you started to understand them. Now, I can definitely see how, some fans, even despite the changes, would still criticize the show and feel like Linkara put it, basically how it almost destroyed the franchise at that time, almost ruined it. I mean, for example, you have Justin, and, Justin, I'll give him credit. They did try to make him more like the Billy of the group, believe it or not. They did. They tried to make him like a young Billy, intelligent, knowing what to do. I mean, heck, they had, I think his story arc throughout the series was he was actually 12, 13, but he had the intelligence enough to go into high school. He was actually one of those special he was one of those basically his character was a gifted character. Basically, he was smart enough to where he can attend high school at his young age. And I think they did that. Now, and like I said, I think they did that. Now, I'll give him credit for trying to go with that, but I can also understand why fans found him kind of annoying and wish he wasn't part of the team. And I think even Blake Foster nowadays even acknowledges, yeah, maybe things could have been a little bit more different if they would have waited or something. I'm sure Blake Foster nowadays, grown up, kind of understands how fans felt about him. Anyway, this is the way I think it could have worked out for Turbo. Yeah, it wasn't probably the most successful continuation of the franchise, but it was successful enough, as Linkara pointed out, to where it got the In Space season, I guess you could say the concluding season to the whole Zordon Power Ranger arc, or Zordon storyline, if you know what I mean. So, at least it got that before it started to spin off into its own shows, still connecting each other one to the other, but like I said, basically getting ratings up enough to warrant the concluting season of the entire Zordon arc, if you will. But like I said, I think this is my personal opinion, and you can agree with this whether you want to or not. Personally, I think this is how fans would have accepted Turbo better. They would have accepted, let's say, someone like Justin as a temporary Blue Ranger. They could probably accept him as that, and then, let's say, at the beginning of the season, kind of, into the shift into Turbo deal, kind of have him pass his powers on to Rocky, to Steve Kondaris' character, Rocky, and let Rocky resume the role of the Blue Ranger. It would have made more sense. Because one of the things that threw a lot of fans off was the fact that whenever Justin morphed, he grew. And to them, that was like the dumbest, stupidest cop-out you could come up with, just that the studio could come up with, because of the fact that they made a 12-year-old the Blue Ranger. They could have accepted, like I said, they could have accepted Justin being on part of the cast and being a future Ranger if they would have allowed him to give the powers to Rocky, give the powers back to Rocky, to the Rocky character, and let Rocky be the Blue Ranger, and then go to passing of the torch, and thus it would have made more sense for someone like Justin to officially become the new Blue Ranger. Because here you have this whole new group, and here you have Justin just all of a sudden, it's like, hey, what's going to happen with me? He gets teleported up next to them and says, here's your new group. It would have made more sense if you would have had him walking out with the new group. And Rocky saying, because of the fact that you stepped up originally, and you had the maturity and the courage to give your powers up back to me for the time being, I select you to officially become the new Blue Ranger. It would have been more acceptable. It would have made more sense, in my opinion, and it would have made the character more acceptable to the fans. Because at least he would have proven himself already worthy of being a Power Ranger. Another way they could have accepted him as well, as crazy as it sounds, is they could have kept him the way he was. Just let him morph and let him be the small size Ranger. Let him be just the size he was. Don't increase his size because you have to. But I can understand they did it because they're taking footage from the Sentai. I get that too. And in the Sentai, the Blue Ranger is 17 years old. But I digress. But I digress. So anyway, that's one way, though. Those are two ways I think Justin would have been more accepted by the fans. Another thing is, I think the new group could have been accepted more so if, let's say, maybe you selected 2 members down the line to start out, and then later on probably have another Passing of the Torch episode, and then have the other 2 members come on board. Like Carlos and Ashley, I can understand them becoming Rangers because they've been around the show a lot longer. TJ and Cassie, I can understand they were selected because of what they did in passing the torch. I can understand that, but it's like fans just got introduced to them in these 2 episodes, while with Carlos and Ashley, fans who already knew them. Fans were already getting established with them. So I could understand that. And again, I mentioned how Passing the Torch could have worked with Justin if they'd done it in a way that would have made, in my opinion, Justin more acceptable. Another way they could have done Passing of the Torch as well is they could have had, they could have done it to where, okay, Tommy, because Jason David Frank and Catherine Sutherland were leaving, you could have had it to where it was just them leaving the Power Ranger team, and you could have had Tommy pass his Red Ranger powers over to pass his Red Ranger powers over to Adam, the Adam character, who's the most experienced. And you could have had Adam pass his Green Ranger powers over to Carlos, which indeed happened. And Ashley could have, became the new Pink Ranger instead of Cassie. It would have made more sense because at least then you would have 2 experienced individuals in Tanya and Adam, still part of the team along with Justin. And you would have had 2 new Rangers come on board. Again, it's just, Louis Lindbergh, Linkara, he used a great example. When Adam, Rocky, and Aisha became the new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you had these 3 new Rangers alongside 3 experienced Rangers. So, to me, it would have worked out just the same way, but this time the roles would be reversed. In this case, you would have Adam and Tanya as the experience, and you would have Ashley and Carlos as the inexperienced, but part of the team. Justin experienced too, but you kind of get what I'm saying. It would have made more sense in a way, because now you're passing the leadership responsibility onto Adam, who's been there since midway through the 2nd season or something like that. He's been there since the second half of the 2nd season of Mighty Morphin. Have him basically finally become leader. I mean, he showed he could be a leader in that big old crossover they did with all the different Power Ranger characters. It would have made more sense, and again, it would have been reminiscent of the episode in which Rocky, and Aisha got the powers. If you know what I mean. It would have been very reminiscent of it. So, again, I personally think that's how this season could have really worked out right from the start. Really, I really do. Like I said, the Justin situation, 2 ways it could have been done. You could have kept the character the same size he was, even when he morphed. allowing him to be the first child ranger, which he was, but actually showing that he is a child. He's not, whoop, suddenly the same size as Tommy and all that. You could have had it done that way. Or two, you could have had him do the first thing that would have made him worthy to be the Blue Ranger, and that's have him hand over the Blue Ranger powers back to the Rocky character and allow Rocky to be the Blue Turbo Ranger until passing of the torch, and then have Justin walk out along with the new team, and thus he would officially be the new Blue Ranger after being temporary in the movie. That's the way I look at it. It would have made more sense. And it would have made even more sense, even then, if they would explain, in that kind of scenario, or even when he got the powers, that, oh, by the way, when you morph, you're going to grow. You're going to become an enlarged version of yourself. It would have made more sense if they would have explained that to him. And maybe they did behind the scenes, in a scene that was probably cut. But anyway, getting back to my point, I truly think Turbo, Power Rangers Turbo was underrated. Was giving the backlash that I will admit sometimes it did deserve. But honestly, I believe if it would have been done in the way that I mentioned, in the ways that I've mentioned, it would have worked out better. Would have worked out a lot better, depending on how you would have gone with it. You know what I'm saying? Depending on how you would have gone with it, it would have worked a lot better. I mean, like I said, passing the torch could have worked a couple of ways. You could have had Rocky officially passing the powers back over to Justin, officially making him the Blue Ranger, if you know what I mean, which would have Justin walking out with the new team. Or you could have had Justin, Carlos, and Ashley walk out together in the Blue Ranger, Green Ranger, and Yellow Ranger costume. I mean, Blue Ranger, Green Ranger, Pink Ranger costumes. And you could have had them be joined by Adam, who would become the new Red Ranger, and Tanya, who would remain as the Yellow Ranger, thus being reminiscent of when Adam got the powers. I'm just saying, folks. It's just pure speculation on my part. No, it's pure speculation. I'm sorry, I'm just got a lot on my mind. But it's just, yeah, it is kind of pure speculation on my part of how I feel it could have been done correctly and how it could have helped out. Now, I know some of you have your own ideas and ways that you think Turbo could have been done, and that's fine. Go ahead and give them. I would like to hear what you guys have to say about it. But me personally, I think it would have worked out better this way for the show. It would have helped it out a lot more. And again, you could have done another passing of the torch if you want to. That way, we would have had would have had just enough. We would have had, enough time to get used to Cassie, used to TJ, and then you could have had Adam and Tanya pass their powers on to them or whatever. It would have made some sense in that aspect. But again, it's just my personal opinion of how I would have done it, my pure speculation of how it could have gone. And really, that's all I'm going to say on it. And you guys got anything to add to it? Go ahead. Video spawn down below. Let me know what you guys think. But like I said, that's how I would have done it. That's how I feel it could have been done. It could have helped out the show a lot more. And and one other thing, I do agree with something. When you had Venjix come on to the scene, it would have been great if they just would have had Venjix usurp Demetria and turn her into a lackey. I mean, take a look at what they were doing, essentially with Rita, when Zed came on board, before he banished her back into space. She was acting like a lackey. It would have been great. Venjix could have said, or whatever his name was, not Venjix, but whatever his name was, the cousin, the cousin or brother, Divatox's relative, if you will. It would have made more sense if he would have usurped her, if you will, and made her into his lackey, and basically said, hey, look, this is why you've never succeeded. It's because you don't plan right. Heck, even you could have even brought in Divatox's mother in full flesh and blood, have her usurp Divatox, and make her into a lackey, and it would have worked better, would have helped out the show. But like I said, Turbo is underrated. It did get some backlash that it did deserve, but in my honest opinion, it is worth watching because it takes a few episodes, but it takes a certain amount of episodes, but you do kind of get used to the team, to the new Power Ranger team and everything. But like I said, my ideas of how it could have been done, I think would have really helped out. So let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Share your ideas if you like. I'll talk to y'all later.